Hi everybody, this is Casey from Upcycled Island, and today we're going to make something larger. I have a t-shirt that's too tight, and so I want to make it larger. And what I'm going to do is put a band of fabric that matches pretty well along the side to make it wider. So on both sides of the shirt, I'm going to add a strip of fabric. We call that a gusset. And sometimes gussets are triangular in shape, like if you want it bigger at the hip and then it would go smaller towards the bust line. But this shirt is pretty much too small all the way from the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom. So I'm going to add a 2-inch strip on each side. Now to do that, I'm going to cut my strips 3 inches, and that'll give me a seam allowance. So by the time I'm through, I'll have 2 inches on either side. So I have my shirt, and I have opened it up on one side, and I didn't pick the stitches out, and the reason I didn't is because the seams, they're serged, but it's like a 3-thread serge, and so the seam is very, very narrow. So I was able just to cut the seam out and not lose enough fabric to worry about. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm not even taking the hem apart. I'm cutting it at the hem, and when I get past the hem, then my seam is loose, and then I'm going to cut right along the stitching, as close to the stitching as possible. And I'll do that the entire length side of the shirt and up into the sleeves. I'm going to do that same thing. Here we are at the sleeve hem, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut right through the hem. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to start again and cut that seam completely off. Okay, there it is. There's your seam. And you see, it's not very wide at all, so I really didn't lose a lot of fabric. And I'm ready to cut my strips. These are from another project. I had a t-shirt that I did something with, and this is some of the scraps I had. And so I'm going to use my rotary cutter. Now, when I have my ruler shorter than my item, I just flip my item over, my fabric over, so I can cut a straight strip. Okay, here's our fabric, and I want to cut a 3-inch strip. So I'll go to where, and I had already measured the length of this, and it is long enough to do what I want to do. And 1, 2, 3. Straighten this end out. And on this end, I kept the hem. I'm going to use that. So don't lop that hem off. And I've got my other one here. Going to do the same thing. Okay, so there's my strips, and here's my shirt. I'm going to pin this together, right sides together. And I'm going to use the hem on the bottom. So my bottom will already be hemmed. I won't have to hem that. And I'm going to use pins instead of clips because this knit likes to roll. And I feel more comfortable using pins for that reason. Now when you're pinning, be careful not to stretch either piece, either the shirt or the strip. You don't want it stretching on you. Now these fabrics don't match perfectly, but they're going to match enough for my taste. You could put a contrasting color in there if you wanted. Like the print on the shirt is black, so I could have used black if I'd wanted to. And be careful because those edges try to turn. You want to make sure it's not turning on you while you're pinning. And my strip is longer than I need. That is fine. That is what I want. I cross my pins at the curve. Pin this end, and I want some extra, and I'm not going to be picky about it. I'm just going to leave a little extra, and I'll deal with that in the finishing process. So I'm going to take it to the serger. I'm going to use my serger. If you don't have a serger, you can use your sewing machine. Most of the newer sewing machines have a stretch stitch, and you can use a stretch stitch. If you don't have that, most of the machines have a zigzag. Just use a small, a narrow zigzag. All right, we've got the first part of this sewn. And like I said, I use my serger, but you can use a zigzag stitch. If you only have a straight stitch machine, I would just use maybe a longer stitch width because you need some stretch. So there's the first. Now I have this, so I need to pin this together. Let me get my right sides together. And I'm going to flip it over because I want to sew from the bottom to make sure I get my hem lined up. So we're just going to pin that up like we did the other side and sew it together. Hey everybody, don't forget to like and share this video and on under the video is a subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. And also there's a little bell next to that subscribe button that will ensure that you're notified when I put out a new video. Subscribe and hit the little bell so you'll be notified and won't miss out. Well, some of you may have noticed that I pinned it wrong. I pinned the back to the back. So I got halfway sewn up the seam and then realized what I had done. So one thing about sewing, everything can be fixed. And I want it to attach to the other side, not the back. All right, I've got it lined up this time. Where's there it is. And make sure I have the right sides together. Yep. Okay. I'm going to pin this again and sew it, and I'll be back. Okay, we've got the one side sewn. So this is what your strip looks like from the wrong side. On the right side, here's your hem, and this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see the strip, but it's pretty close, so it's gonna, when you wear it, it's gonna be hard to see that it's any different. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Where's my other strip? Here's my strip. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and we'll be back. I just want to remind you that you can get this shirt upcycle because once is not enough, and you can get it at this location, upcycled-island.creator-spring.com. Check it out. It comes in different styles and colors. Okay, we have sewn both inserts in, both gussets. So here's what it looks like on the inside. And here's what it looks like on the outside. You can hardly even see it. Now I will point out that on the edges, on the hems, there's a little piece right there that doesn't match exactly. My philosophy is, if somebody sees that, they're too darn close. How am I going to finish this off? I serged mine, so I'm going to take these tails and I'm going to just put the tail on that seam. You can take a needle and you can thread it through these stitches, but I just put it there and then I use either a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch and just stitch that down, and then I'll keep that tail out of the way and keep it from coming apart. And then, because if you lose this tail, your seams will start coming apart. So you need to secure it. So that's what I'm going to do. And then on the sleeve, remember we left that extra fabric on the sleeve, and we're going to create a hem. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it over. See, we edge stitched, you know, we can just serged all the way to the end. So I'm going to turn that over and pin it. And I have a cover stitch machine, which I could use, but mine is set up for a wide cover stitch, and this is a narrow cover stitch. So all I'm going to do is take it to my sewing machine, and you see this cover stitch here, this hem. I'm going to make 2 lines of stitching side by side, and I'm going to start here and go across the insert to here, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll make 2 lines of stitching so that will match the rest of the hem, and that is all I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back. Okay, we have finished. And here is the hem of the shirt. And I worked those thread tails in, those serger thread tails in. I used a narrow zigzag stitch, and I just stitched them down into the seam allowance. So those are taken care of. It won't come apart. And then on this end, I turned it over. There's our hem. And I did top stitching to match the other top stitching. And then this excess that has the tails on it, I'm just going to cut that off because this top stitching will take care of locking the serger stitches. So I'm just going to cut off close to that stitching this extra fabric there at the sleeve hem that I created. Yep, there's a pin. And the same thing on this one. I did the top stitching to match the other top stitching. And we're just going to cut off that extra. And we are done. So here's what the inside looks like. And then here's the outside. And that's not going to show at all. And if anybody notices, like I said, they're 2 darn clothes. And there you go. Simple, simple, quick and easy. I want to thank you for watching. Again, I hope it was helpful. I'll see you next time. Stay safe.